on target.
Almost there.
Stay on target.
Right behind me.
Almost there.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Yakima On Target. I'm here with Horace Ward from the Yakima Valley Office of Emergency Management. Thank you for joining me today, Horace.
Thanks for having me here, Sean.
It's been about a year since the Rattlesnake Ridge Landslide.
Yes.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about that. How did that all get reported? It was quite a situation when the news hit.
So yeah, in October of 2017, a local pilot first noted it and let Columbia Asphalt know, and they hired Cornforth Consulting right after that, and that was right around the 1st of October. We found out about it a little later in the month from another local pilot who said, hey, there's a large crack that has appeared on the side of the hill. And from there, we made a few phone calls and figured out that it was an evolving situation slowly at that point.
Right. And there was a fire up there that may have played a part in when they were flying over. They noticed it a little.
Yeah, the fire burned off all that vegetation that was up there, and that helped us see it sooner. It may not have become as prevalent till maybe December. Just depends.
Now, initially, it was thought to be rather imminent. It was thought to come down rather quickly, but some of the models that were shown showed that it wasn't moving as quickly, and you guys had some time to deal with the situation. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, in December, they held a meeting that let us know that their model predicted something was going to happen maybe around the mid of January, and that's when we took action to prevent more harm or potential harm to people. That's why we closed down Thorpe Road to the public, and then we let the residents below know that there was a large hazard there. From there, it escalated continually. The timeline moved closer and closer to us, to maybe the first week of January. So that's when we moved and we evacuated all those people out of there and got them out of the way. And it reached a maximum point of about 1.7 feet per week about midway through January. And that, off the data that the geologic firms were providing, was the event that they were anticipating.
And there were other state agencies and many other agencies involved in this, right?
Yeah, the Washington State Geologic Survey was involved from the start as well. And then after Governor Inslee visited, another firm was hired to review all the data and make sure that it sounded correct.
Now, what did your office learn? This was I'm not going to say a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but one of those experiences that doesn't come along very often.
Yeah.
What did your office learn?
So it was good practice really for us. I mean, we went from not much is happening to, okay, we got to get everybody in place.
A serious
We've
situation.
got to start moving quickly. At that point, it was the middle of a holiday. I was the only person in the office at the time, so it was really interesting to see how to coordinate an event like that and also play the part of like the agency information officer.
Right.
I had 50 plus interviews that first week, and anyway, figuring out how to manage that better, and that way it better prepares us for the next emergency.
Exactly. Now, it's been about a year since all of it really started to come together. Where are we at now? I know there's been some activity. You guys had a news release recently.
So yeah, movement-wise, we're about 0.85 feet per week for the fastest point and about 0.2 feet per week for the slowest point. So somewhere in between there is our average amount of movement, which is obviously far less than the 1.7 feet per week. The new activity that's up there, there's a company hired by Columbia Asphalt that's doing some boreholing as part of an agreement with the Washington State Department of Natural Resources. And they're just installing some new equipment and taking some samples with that.
So if people see activity up there, they're monitoring and making sure that it's not moving any faster than it was before. Now, is there still some danger that it could come down quicker?
You
never know.
We don't really know, but out of all the scenarios that all three geologic agencies put together, the highest likelihood, and we're talking 80, 90%, they think that it will slow down and pretty much stop movement on its own without a rapid release. And the rapid release scenario is about 0.05% possibility of happening in 3 different geologic firms' analysis of it.
And you guys are monitoring it, not just you, but the quarry is monitoring it, the state's monitoring it.
Yeah, the quarry and the state are monitoring all that data. They talk every single week and review that data and release a situation report out to all the participating agencies so everybody's on the same page consistently. And with that, everybody's been in the know and we're ready for whatever may come next.
And as that were to develop, you would definitely share that with our community.
Oh, certainly, yeah. It would be an immediate press briefing and say something's happening. If per se it stops, we'd still do a press release at that point and say, hey, it stopped, but there's still this big ugly hangnail sitting there,
Right.
and now we're going to go over the steps of what's next.
Now, this is, like we talked about earlier, this is a unique situation. We do have other landslides in the area, but this is a pretty unique area, and the situation and proximity to the river and the freeway made it a little bit more newsworthy, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, initially, that was my thought when I saw this fissure, is that, oh goodness, it might go into the river.
Right.
But after we looked at the data, it was moving away from that portion that's closest to the river and moving in a southern direction, which makes it a lot more difficult for that mass to reach the river and create issues there.
Right.
So yeah, it definitely was more newsworthy. It
Right.
blew up really
got
off
people's
of the news
attention
that got out
rather
there
quickly.
before we got news out there.
Right.
Off of the drone footage that got released January 1st,
Right.
2018. And that's what really kicked off a lot more of the interaction we had to
Right.
have
People
at that
started
point.
seeing it and were going, oh, wow, I drive
Yeah.
through there.
And, and totally understandable. But then once more data came out and
Right.
they were explaining it to us, it made a lot more sense. And, we were able to take a deep breath and say, okay, it's not the end of the world. We can take it a little easier now. These guys have hundreds of years experience combined. I think they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Now, it's a unique situation. This isn't what you guys plan for all the time. You plan for disasters.
Yeah, so we plan in a general term for disasters on how a response would go to those. Obviously, we have a number of different disasters we face here in Yakima County. Landslides aren't at the top of the list,
Right.
but they're in there.
And we have had them before.
Yeah, so we identify those areas that are prone or may have a landslide in the future, and we know those areas. This area wasn't noted as that, but there are fault lines that run in that area. So,
What are some of the common things that you do plan for and prepare for? Floods?
yeah, floods is like our number one.
Right.
I mean, we can have floods any time of the year. We had a flood this summer due to a canal breach.
Right.
And while it's not an everyday common situation, it's still a flood. The response is still the same.
And another exercise, there was an airport disaster exercise, and you were in charge of that
Yes.
also recently.
Yeah, so we, as part of the airport's master plan and their FAA requirements,
Right.
they have to have a full-scale exercise every 3 years. So that's another thing that we did. We build the plan and then we test the plan. So we're not only testing the Yakima Air Terminal's plan, but we're also testing the county and city's response plans.
And how you would respond to it,
Yeah,
to a situation.
and so
like
it's
that.
good practice for everybody and helps keep us all in that environment together, but outside of the actual response.
Right. Outside of an actual event.
We hope that'll never happen,
Right.
but we're prepared and have practiced if it does.
And things do happen. That's what people
Things
should
do
know.
happen.
Disasters do
Yeah,
happen.
most people say that'll never happen here, and then it happens here when we think that we're not vulnerable to it.
Right.
And that's usually how it goes.
Preparation is a big part of the key.
Yes.
So, and a big part of the plan going forward. So, I think that's it. I really appreciate you coming out, Horace.
Yes, thank
you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to many adventures in the future.
All right. And thank you for joining us on Yakima On Target.
Thank you.
For more information about the Yakima Valley Office of Emergency Management, call 1-509-574-1900 or visit the Yakima Valley Office of Emergency Management webpage at www.co.yakima.wa.us/350/emergency-management. You can also find and follow the Yakima Valley Office of Emergency Management on Facebook for current and unfolding information.
Stay on target.
Almost there.
Stay on target.
Almost there.
For information on Yakima On Target or other programs produced at the Yakima Public Affairs Channel, call 509-575-6092.